Hey, John Bachland.
Hello.
Good to see you today.
Tara Bachland.
So this is the Jon and Tara podcast, of course, with Jon and Tara Bachland. What was the rest of our intro?
We were doing something like cheers or
hiya.
pow. Wow.
I thought there were other words.
Like, oh no, I'm looking at your iPad and I'm seeing that you want to talk about marriage books or something.
Well, I thought it would be good. We've been married for 20 some years, and
wow,
20 some. At a certain point, you just go some.
Yeah, 20 plus.
20 plus. And I don't think, other than like 5 love languages and a few things like that, we haven't really read like marriage books. We have read John Gray, like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, which are immensely helpful. We've already talked about.
I like that one. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. How about you just suck my?
And I'm sure that's not the first time it's been said.
Whatever rhymes, you know.
Yeah, it's all about the rhyme. And so we brought up a number of those books, but we haven't really read other books. So I thought we could, like, John doesn't read, doesn't know how to read. So apparently he's going to have to fumble and stumble through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ABC.
You were a little bit resistant, so I'm going to make fun of your resistance.
Okay, you do that. Make fun of my resistance. That's okay.
So I picked out a couple books, and you are welcome to pick out a couple of books as well. And I think it'd be interesting, because instead of coming at it from a perspective of we're having problems, what's the solution? Or one of them is also, I think, a pre-marriage book, like questions that you ask each other before marriage. I think it would be interesting to go through. Yeah, that one would have been good to sort out beforehand.
We could do a pre-marriage book now, yeah.
Right. And I just thought it would be a fun conversation too. Yeah. So stay tuned. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
I think so.
You know what we should do? We should turn just a little bit sideways like this. I think that would be good. Just looking at the monitor, just seeing that way we can kind of look at each other a little bit more.
The issue before is that it shows that your clothes on the floor, and just like a whole,
Well, if you weren't leaving my clothes there, they wouldn't be on the floor there.
That's right. You only leave socks and underwear. That is a shirt. It's now a kitty bed.
Well, there we go.
So no, but that's why I don't like
it's 4-finger swipe to the left. There you go.
And you make yours go backwards too.
Nope.
Yours is the reverse. It is technically on Apple.
Nope.
It's the reverse.
Nope. Apple got it wrong. Apple got it wrong. Yes. Scrolling, that you go like this to go down. You go like this to go up.
Yeah, I don't. The original one must have been the other way, wasn't it? Because that's the one I'm accustomed to.
They call it natural scrolling or
unnatural scrolling, and yours is the unnatural.
I like that.
Yes, of course. So, how about, should we just dive right into a boring topic?
Let's dive in.
So you asked me. I said I have a topic for today, and you're like, "Is it exciting?" And we can make it fun.
Okay.
So that's like an open bantering situation.
Okay. So what is it?
So kind of going on like the pre-marital topic, but we've been together a long time from our perspective and from your perspective.
We did have premarital sex, full disclosure.
We did have premarital counseling briefly with the pastor as well. I think that's good.
The sex was better than the counseling.
For sure.
Yeah. You are doing a podcast with me.
I forgot how uncomfortable you can make things. I don't know why I forgot that.
Well, size matters. That's why it's uncomfortable. So go ahead,
John.
Well, get to your topic. Otherwise, I gotta fill in these spots.
So there's a spider web over there. So getting into marriage, the classical marriage vows are, in sickness and in health till death do us part.
That's right.
Rich or poor.
And I was serious about that. And you were too. We still are.
But once you get into marriage, I think there's like these evolutions, like, right, there's even just the phrase, the 7-year itch, right? There's just these time periods, these things that you go through. And, that's what's really funny about hearing these 20-some-year-olds and 30-some-year-olds who are not married, actually having conversations about, I think it's smart in a way, because it's like they're hearing about probably what their parents went through, other people have gone through, and they're like, no, I'm going to sort this all out before you even get married. But then like they're not getting married
by the time they're 50.
Yeah, because it's like trying to sort out all the issues in life before getting into any of them. And
that's the way the whole society has gone. That's why I get invited to talk to entrepreneurial classes in college. A class about how to be an entrepreneur. You either are or you aren't. I would tell all those guys, the next gal you fall in love with, get married.
There is a component of you just got to dive in.
Sometimes you got to fall on your face, and sometimes you got to suck it up to make it work. So, yeah.
And just got to make it work. And as you go along, of course, things are going to come up. You cannot predict everything that's going to come up and how to sort it out ahead of time. Although I'm sure these books will be helpful on like, what would you do in this circumstance or this situation, which we'll find out. It'll be interesting. It's so I think what happens in a lot of relationships is that there are unspoken or unknown expectations.
Of course. Yeah.
And it's not in the marriage vows of, it's simply for richer or poor, in sickness and health till death do us part. Just the classical.
Covers the foundation.
It hits, some main points, right? It's like, these things may happen and we're in it to win it no matter what. But what's in between those large gaps are, well, what can I expect from that person in those in-between times? Like, okay, for richer or poor. Okay, well, how many hours on the couch, is like the tolerance level, or in sickness and health. Well, how many Krispy Kreme, how many donuts per week is tolerable?
For me, I would allow you 6 hours a day on the couch.
That's pretty generous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'd be doing a lot of stuff on the couch.
Okay. Yeah. I figured there's a catch to that.
You'd be exercising on the couch. You'd be learning new things. It'd be
working.
We could watch a movie.
Yep.
Play a video game. If we had a video game console, we could play a video game. I have had video game consoles in the past, but
how did that go, John?
Well, what I do is when I buy one specifically to play a game, and then I play the game all the way through and win the game. And when I win the game, I give away the console. So that's how it goes for me, because after a while, I feel guilty about the amount of time I'm spending. So I feel like I need to be doing other things.
So you binge.
I can binge on a game. Yes. Yeah. Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell is my favorite. Yeah. I don't know if there's a new one. I'll actually check today.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the holiday break is kind of coming up.
Yeah. I could probably finish one in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good point, because example, right? Because as you get along in life, and it's like, okay, I thought that she'd be cleaning the house every week or making every meal, and obviously I'm getting into gender stereotypes.
Every week, every day.
Well, you got to do a little bit every day.
Yeah.
And, I thought that he would be making this much money by this time, again, gender stereotypes. And so I thought it would be an interesting conversation at our point in marriage and life. Are there actually like reasonable, can you reasonably expect?
I thought she'd be a fitness model by now.
Right. Because as the years go on, that's you
running around in a bikini all day.
Maybe if we lived in Florida.
I could crank it up to 85 in here.
Yeah, in their backyard pool.
I'll go out back and melt some snow.
That'll take a while. Even in this early snow season. But, because as you go along, we all have expectations and thoughts in our mind of how things are going to be. And whether you just don't know to communicate it, you don't know how to communicate it, or it's just in your brain, and you're like, I thought that you were in my imaginary world and saw everything that I saw, you know?
Yeah.
So
you didn't invite me into your Barbie house.
Yeah.
So do you have a specific question, or?
That is the question. I didn't get more specific than that.
Didn't get a question.
So did you have, here's a specific question, coming into marriage with me, and you had been in relationships before, and had been married before. And so I think your expectations were more clearly defined in your mind, and you were much clearer at expressing to me what certain expectations were. What were those expectations initially?
Well, I knew that you cooked. I knew that you liked to cook. And I met you in my martial arts school. So I knew that you liked to work out. So those types of things, when I met you, you were trying to learn more about health and fitness, but you didn't know much. And you were just going to places and classes and taking, learning what you were learning at the time. And so you learned a lot about nutrition from me and a lot about exercise. And I think it would be a requirement for me going out with somebody that they are trying to take care of themselves. And not that, I joke about a fitness model, but not that you have to be at that level. That, when you met me, I was at the level of a bodybuilder, power lifter, professional athlete, because I was a professional martial arts instructor, and I trained every day. I trained every day, at least 5-6 hours a day. And I raced motocross on the side and that type of stuff. And so I was very much about fitness because I had to be. So that would have been a requirement. And I wouldn't meet somebody and then require it of them. I would meet them and learn about them, and then find out, oh, they do care. You were actively looking for answers, looking for solutions, looking for knowledge or information. And so you checked off the boxes that I would have if I was looking. When I met you, I wasn't looking for somebody. I was single. I was not looking. I was just doing my business and doing my stuff. And I had my son was 11 years old at the time, and I was a single dad with sole custody of my son. And so I was just living my life. I wasn't looking for a girlfriend at that time. But if I was, you would have checked the boxes. And obviously we ended up together. And no, sorry, don't tap because our microphone. So yes, that's where I ended up. We're self-qualifying because of how we met. And beyond that, like I said, I knew that you like to cook. As we got to know each other, you talked about your family life and different things, we got to know each other, and I gleaned from the information I was hearing, and that you knew how to cook and you liked it, and that kind of stuff. And so I'm assuming, because I saw you, that you were a neat, kind of clean person. You took care of yourself. You were well kept. You would come to the gym in your work clothes, which were nice because you were a hostess at a dinner theater, and so you knew how to dress up. And then our first date, I went out with you and another gal. It wasn't technically a date, but our first time out together.
Third wheel.
I was a third wheel. Yes, a big third wheel. And
I could feel it in my vehicle too. You're a heavy third wheel.
Well, you had a tiny vehicle. And
so you got to see how he kept my car.
I got to see how you kept your car, which I called the tractor because he had a hole in the header, and so it was like, it was hilarious. But I rode in your vehicle. It was great.
It was funny.
And we went out dancing. We went out salsa dancing, and so then I got to see you in in that kind of environment. And I wasn't a guy that goes to clubs, so I was never out in the club scene and doing that kind of stuff. So people might wonder, well, how'd you know how to salsa dance? I watched for 5 minutes and then I went out on the floor and danced, because in high school I was a break dancer and I was, I'm a martial artist. I can move. Yeah. I can move. And
that's something about Polly, or I think there's something about Polly.
No.
Oh no, it's
something about Mary.
Oh yeah. But he's in it. What's his name? Is in another movie with Jennifer Aniston. That's why I was getting him mixed up.
Yeah, it's something about Polly.
Yeah.
Polly, Polly, not Polly like Paul.
But it's something, but it is something, something about Polly.
Yeah.
It is that movie where she has a ferret and they go out dancing.
Yes.
Right.
You're correct.
And they go out to she's like, let's get Indian food. He's like, okay.
Yeah, he's sweating terribly.
Yeah.
It's the typical guy trying to do anything to impress the woman he's fallen for. And anyway, I went out salsa dancing and you did not know that I did not know how to salsa dance, because I just watched what the other guys were doing and I just mimicked it, which dancing is literally that easy. That's how you do it.
Well, if you have a right and left foot, right, left hand.
If you have rhythm and timing and
it's that easy. You just watch and
it is.
Do. Yep.
That's how you do anything.
Yep.
So yeah, we had a fun night that night. I said that I would like to kiss you. And you said, technically, I still have a boyfriend. He's in Brazil, because you were in Brazil for foreign exchange and you hadn't been around him for, I don't know, 6 or 7 months or something like that. And I was like, okay. And then I completely respected you. So that was the next level. Is this girl somebody that I can respect, somebody that I can trust? And you showed that by not going for it that night, not by kissing me.
I resisted that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh,
it was tough. It was.
Well, I was a little younger then too. So that was 23 years ago.
Yeah.
So.
And you'd already showed your dance moves.
You had seen my martial art moves. Yeah.
Suave that night.
Yeah.
Well, you see, we came in from very different perspectives and time of life. I already referred to this, but you had been in previous relationships and marriages. So you could be like, yep, nope, yep, nope, yep, nope.
I'm 12 years older than you.
Right. And for me, I was just 18 when I had met you. So it had, just high school like relationships. And you're just learning what think you might like and want, or even what life is about. You don't even know really how much it costs to live life. So if you're like, I'd like to have 12 kids, and you don't even realize what it, costs to live,
Yeah.
And so they're very different perspectives. So I can see where books, like Before You Get Married, here are the questions to ask. And I think it'll actually be amusing to go through it together.
Yeah.
In a way, but you're able to kind of have the checklist, whether it was conscious or not.
Well, it was conscious per se. I wasn't necessarily, even when we went out that night, I didn't have intentions, designs on you. I was like, oh, you had just stopped in and said, me and Alicia, the Italian girl, are going salsa dancing. And I said, oh, I love salsa. And you said, you do? And I was like, yeah, and I wasn't like, yeah, I dance salsa all the time. Yeah, I'm Juan Suave, whatever you want to call me.
That's what they call me at the club.
I'm Firefoot on the dance floor. It's not like there was any kind of, I wasn't trying to impress you or anything. I did at that point in my life. I loved watching women do salsa. So I love salsa, So
there's that.
Yeah, there's that. So yeah, all of the boxes were checked, and I did not have expectations outside of that because I didn't have designs on you. When I did finally have designs on you, I did not have expectations other than that we would get to know each other and we would work together on our life moving forward if we move forward.
So what did that look like? How did your expectations change once you had designs? Designs, you mean like she might be a candidate, or do you mean like once we technically started dating?
When I decided that I was going to make you my girlfriend, you know, that I was going to officially go for it, you know, not just, hey, I'd like to kiss you, but just be like, yeah, you know, we're a thing. And you know, then my expectations stayed the same. You know, I did expect we would see each other quite often because you were training in my gym, and then we started going out and doing things and getting to know each other even better, you know, relatively well. And you know, you were very, you were demure, you were reserved, you were, you know, I could say inexperienced, but it's not like, that's not a thing for me. Like, whether you were experienced or inexperienced wouldn't necessarily matter that much, you know.
In life or with guys and
Well,
relationships?
in general. Yeah, I didn't, you know, they talk about body count nowadays, and that's how many people you've had sex with. And
It sounds so weird when you first hear that.
well, first of all, you know, if somebody has a stat that they're embarrassed about, they're going to lie to you. You know, you're never going to know. Right. And so I never asked you, you never asked me. It wasn't a thing back then. It wasn't like, you know, it was just getting to know the person before, you know, we were friends
Several months.
with my school. You asked if there was anything you could do to help. Right. And I said, you could hand out flyers and I'll give you a discount. Right. And so you started going around and putting up flyers on bulletin boards. Yeah. Back then we didn't have.
They're physical bulletin boards.
Yeah. It'd be in a coffee shop. You'd put up a flyer, or we'd go to the magazine shops back in the day when in the mall there was a magazine shop, and we'd put little postcard size flyers in all the magazines and all the martial art magazines and everything. We just fill the magazines as many as we could before we got yelled at.
What you should have done also is put your brochure in the girls' magazines.
We did.
Oh, okay.
We
good.
put them in. Well, first we did martial.
The picture, you know, the bright picture.
First we did martial art magazines. Then we did muscle car magazines. Then we did weightlifting magazines. Then we did all the guy stuff. And if we could, we'd get to all the ladies stuff, and we do that too.
Okay.
So, and I'd send 8 guys out. Yeah. We'd all go out to different stores and malls and stuff and gas stations.
Old school marketing.
Totally. Yeah. You had to. There was no social media. I had a website, but that was it. I mean, and it
took 5 minutes for the page to load.
Well, we would go on bulletin boards, which were the social media of that day. And you could go in there and kind of advertise, like say, hey, I opened my martial arts school, or I'm doing a special this month. But everybody in there was from around the world. They were from around the country, at least, you know, and it was like, you know,
it was before search engine.
There wasn't a bulletin board for my town.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't that kind of stuff yet. So we couldn't just pick up our phone and go on Twitter, hey, doing a special, you know, in the next 2 hours or 2 days, if you come down and register and take a free class, you'll get 50% off for 6 months, you know.
Or a live session. We're here now.
Come on. We couldn't do this. Like, hey, we're going to do martial arts. Tara, let's do some martial arts. Oh, boom, boom. That's great, isn't it? It's awesome. It's martial arts. It's fun. You know, look at this. This is a wrist lock. Ow. You know, you know, we couldn't do that because there wasn't that kind of connectivity. So we would literally go to the park and do demos, and people would drive by, and then some people would stop and watch. And then
it's when people, I remember doing one with you, and it was like a festival or something going on in the summer. We were doing stick work demo. And I think it was actually stick and dagger, training dagger.
Yeah.
No, it was just sticks. Now we call them Karens. Karen came over and said, I think you're showing kids violence.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you. There was a lady who was concerned about the children.
Okay.
I don't call them Karens because there are actual people out there named Karen.
Okay, that's a good point.
I want to be kind to the Karens because I've met some nice ladies named Karen. And
I apologize. I was getting on a roll. Yes.
So there was a lady who was concerned about the kids, and she came over and kind of bawled us out a little bit and kind of complained. And, you know, we would talk and say, well, ma'am, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. And
what I was getting at though, is that's when people actually had to come to your face and say something rather than just comment on social media.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the reverse, and I'm calling them out on
a podcast. Yeah. No,
so
we would literally, you would have to talk to people, and there was no platform to complain on. You couldn't take a video of them and make fun of them on a meme or anything like that. And yeah, so that was the real world. And we still do the real world stuff. We still do the martial arts. We still do that. We're just happen to be utilizing a new medium to talk about relationships and things like that.
Yeah.
Because you do get a broader reach, And if you want us to come and talk to your church group or your women's group or your men's group, we will. We do this kind of thing. It's being married 22 years, both running businesses and living our life and getting along. We're with two people last night that were not a couple, male and a female. And we were talking, and the lady was saying, you guys are so admirable. First of all, I don't know how you do it, that you're so good together. You're so good with other people. You're good at business. And
it's 6 hours on the couch. It's hard time.
It's all the work you got to do on the couch.
And still get the cooking and cleaning done.
Yeah. Every day. It is. And we do cook and we do clean every day. We do take care of all of our business. In my business, I call myself the janitor because I will empty garbages. I will sweep the floor. Because every job in the business needs to be done. And if it doesn't get done, if I have a customer walk in and our floor is dirty or our garbages are full or, it just looks bad. So I take care of that kind of stuff if it needs to be. And, my guys will be running machines and they could be running 2-3 machines at a time. Why would I tell my guys, and now they do they empty garbages and stuff when they have time, but why would I take them off of a job making thousands of dollars an hour to empty a garbage? I can do that. It doesn't make me feel like less of a business owner to do that. It actually makes me feel like I have true pride in my company.
I think this ties in with our topic of the day pretty well, expectation. And so coming into the job, was it in their job description and empty garbages when you're walking by and it's full?
Yes. It has been said to every employee that I've ever hired, if there's a paper towel on the floor, you're not allowed to walk by it. You need to pick it up. It doesn't matter if some guy just dropped it purposefully. And then I said to everybody, don't drop paper towels purposefully because people will get upset.
But you also don't holler at guys if you see them walk by something.
No, they might be thinking of something, they might not see it, whatever. It's a general cleanliness kind of, it's a machine shop. So, there's parts over here, there's tooling over there, there's material over here, there's stuff being stacked on benches that's going to get cut and parts coming out, and there might be some coolant on the floor and some oil on the bench. But it's like general cleanliness is important,
So where I'd like to go with this.
Okay.
All right. Is we've heard as well, it's not just our own experience, but then, as you go on in life, you get to know other couples and you hear, what goes on in other people's lives. I was going to make a comment about clothes on the floor, but I'm sure we're not the only ones. It's a kiddie bed now.
It's blurred on purpose.
So this is not the entire list, but let's say there have been periods where I'm not cooking as much, and I love to cook. So it's not like it's not an issue.
And so do I. I made a fabulous truffle cheese scrambled eggs with shiitake mushrooms this morning.
Yeah. Amazing.
That was great. I thought it was great.
So there have been periods, especially as business gets busy, there are various things that happen in life where a person might not be cleaning as much, and that has happened also. I'm the primary cleaner. And I say we split up the cooking pretty evenly these days, and the kitchen cleaning as far as that.
Well, you asked me to help by vacuuming.
Yeah.
So I bought a Roomba.
It's great. As long as there aren't too many socks laying around, or
yeah, because the Roomba will choke on stuff.
Yeah, you gotta look for hairballs and that kind of thing before you do that, for sure. And so if I'm doing my duties of taking care of the kitties and checking for stocks,
I can do my duty of turning on the Roomba.
Right, exactly. It all works out. This podcast is not sponsored by Roomba, but could be.
It could be. We love the Roomba i7. It is
Yeah.
a wonderful device. It has a vacuum tower, so it empties the Roomba automatically when it goes back to the tower.
We could technically switch from a love of salsa to a love of Roomba.
There you go.
So as life goes on, you know, there are ebbs and flows. You know, there are things that happen in life, you know, whether you have a new baby or a new job, or you just moved and you're organizing the house, so the regular cleaning or cooking or something, or maybe let's bring up a few different examples. Maybe in your early marriage, maybe you did talk about income and the expectations you have of yourselves, of each other, how much income you'd bring into the household, how much you would allocate to savings, for example, individually and together. And maybe you're not meeting that for a while. Maybe it's the economy, maybe someone gets sick and they, you know, just have whatever. There's all kinds of
Caught
things.
in a layoff.
Right. So I think what happens in marriage is that there are healthy expectations, the ones that are communicated about and agreed upon are fine, are healthy. Even if together you have crazy expectations and goals, if you're agreeing on them together, I think that's pretty much fine. You know, as long as you're not deliberately hurting someone else in the process. I mean, I can almost go without saying, I think, for if anyone's listening to us talk, but the expectations that, first of all, are not communicated, maybe that grow in your mind over time, maybe that creep in, you know, so like maybe not cooking goes from 2 weeks to 2 months, you know, stretching it to 2 years, or cleaning, you know, maybe that, and that's where it really puts stress on the relationship. And especially if A, you don't communicate about it, B, you try to communicate about it and then the other person is not really receiving it. You're not communicating clearly or directly enough. The other person's not really receiving it.
A lot of times it will be innuendo, right? A woman will say to a man, can you take care of this? The man will say yes. Then if there was no time frame on it, it might take 3 days. You know, and then the guy forgets about it, and then the woman gets upset, and then it's, you never do anything for me or listen to what I say or whatever.
Goes into Never Land.
And so then specifically what I would do is say, can you take care of this in the next 5 minutes? And then that's a question. To a guy, that's a question. So if Tara asked me the question, can you take care of this in the next 5 minutes? I'm okay if I say no. I'm okay if I say yes. I'm okay if I say it's going to take 15 minutes. You
know, it's really funny because there's an example from this morning. We were in the kitchen and you're like, where did you put this new product that I ordered? I'm like, okay, I put it here to put it away. Nice and tidy.
That would be my mushroom coffee.
Oh yeah, it was your Myco cocoa.
My Myco brew.
Yes. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I put it here because it's along with it. It's kind of a supplement. It's a food supplement. I'm trying to clean up, organize better.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that makes sense now that I know. And you took down the boxes, which are way high. And I
asked them down. I'm sorry.
Hey, by the way, when you're done, will you put those back up? Because I have to get a stool out.
I didn't even hear that. Yeah. I didn't even hear that. Were we in the same room?
We were in the same spot.
Oh. I'm sorry.
And I didn't say right now, you know, I just said,
Starry's ripping it up.
She's getting into it too. And it's so true though with a guy, and it helps in business also. This is where it helps with the guys and women, but usually women are typically right on it. They assume you mean right away. But I found with the guys that I work with, you know, the time frames do help if you say, when can you get that done? Or
the best thing is to say, sometimes, how long will it take you to do this? Or when do you think you could get to it? And that will prompt I could do it right now.
Yep.
You know, that will prompt a guy to be the performer that you want him to be and the performer that he knows he can be.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't always have to be a challenge, but for when you're talking to a guy, you got to remember, guys compete, guys take on challenges, guys try to be the best, guys want to perform. And when you take away that performance layer, then why should I do it? It doesn't really matter. Like if a guy is getting ready for, well, look at the fighters, right? The fighters on the UFC, they all get fat when they don't have a fight coming up. It's not like they walk around all ripped up and ready to go. Some do, but some guys' bodies are just that way. Some guys are naturally trim. Most guys, they stop training 6-7 hours a day, 8 hours a day. They stop eating the pure foods and go back to some pizza and some beer and some other stuff, right? And then when there's a purpose in front of them, they could spend 6 months training their ass off to get to that point, to be the best top level performer they can be, to peak. They will train to peak on the day they're going to fight. Hey, Starry. You want to be on the podcast, huh?
On a lap.
So this is Star, one of our cats. It's Tara's cat. She just mooned the camera.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what Starry's ass looks like now. That'll be a nice meme. The moon between Jon and Tara. Somebody make it. So anyway, the idea the idea is that guys step up to challenges. Yeah. Guys step up to defend their wives, their family, their own personal honor. Guys step up to go to war. They'll put their life on the line. They will die for what they believe in, and they won't even question it. That once they are in that mode and they are prepared, that's it. That's, yeah.
I have to ask to pause.
Oh, geez. Yeah. All right. Well, we can do that easily because we're just not lucky. So guys will get into their plan. They'll work their plan and they will be ready. And like I said, the UFC fighters will be moving to peak the day that they're supposed to fight.
Yeah, not burn out beforehand, not overtrain. Yeah.
They optimize to give 100% of all their effort in that 15 or 20 minutes that they fight, or 25 minutes. Yeah, if it's a 5-round, well, that's 3. They're 3-minute rounds, right?
5-minute rounds.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Bruce Buffer. Thank you.
My auditory.
Thank you.
Well, that's how I learned martial arts. And sometimes is the rhythm, is the sound.
Got to kind of use sound effects.
Yeah.
Rhythms.
I'm not doing it right, but
sometimes you got to sing it.
Yeah.
A 1, then a 5, then a 2, then a 4, then a 3, then a 6, then a high, low, high, low, high, low. Yeah.
Yeah. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
This is the way the stick work goes when you're smacking your partner in the face.
In the nose. You're off.
In the
remember?
Nose. Yeah.
We started the podcast with rhyming.
Oh.
Mars and Venus. Remember?
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually gonna do an ad for Host Defense because I really like it. This is non-sponsored, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So this is the oh wow, look at that. It doesn't zoom in. Oh, there we go. I have to put it in front of my face. This is the Host Defense mushroom microbrew cocoa, and I have the mocha, and I mixed them because I didn't want a totally strong coffee.
Does the mocha have a real strong coffee flavor?
It's a little stronger than I wanted at the time.
Like it.
Yeah, you will. And it has lion's mane mushroom in it, which is good for your brain, good for your cilia, good for all the little things that look like lion's mane. And I like drinking it.
So that means like your nose hairs will really be excited and your eyelashes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Another appendages
all your cilia hair like things.
Yeah. So I really appreciate that's Paul Stamets' company, or at least he is part of it. I really appreciate his products. we have a lot of his mushroom immune support stuff. And
we work with a lot of herbalists, and one of the herbalists we work with says that she's done a testing, like empirical testing with herself and clients, and the Paul Stamets, the Host Defense products by Paul Stamets work way better than even doing your own homemade mushroom concoctions. Wildcrafted, yeah.
Nice.
So,
interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So going on that topic, okay, so guys responding to the challenge. I mean, we even met with we were with a doctor the other day, and he was kind of like, in face of the challenge, he was giving his stats. He's like, well, my stats are actually way better. And you're like, that's the kind of doctor you want, someone who's like really into their.
He was quick. He interrupted us. So he was kind of rude. He was arrogant. And overall, he seemed like a nice guy, but he seemed like a guy that was trying to cover up a slight asshole side and just be overly nice. Because if he was an asshole in the past, he probably got talked to, and then he had to. That's why it seemed to kind of pretend to me like I'm overly nice. Hi, yeah. Did you guys see this? Did you see this? And I was like, this is a little bit fake. But if I'm going to have a guy do a surgery, I want the asshole that thinks he's the best. I want the guy that's arrogant about his stats, and he's working for that to be better. He's like, my stats are 4 times better than the national average, and that's a point of pride for him that he does his job so well that he's beating everybody in the country. That's his Olympics, right? And I'm like, yeah, if I got to get this surgery, that's, and I'm not going to talk about it right now, but all right, I'm not going to say it. I was going to try and be really funny, and in my head it was funny, and as it started coming out my mouth, I figured it wouldn't be funny. But
okay,
anyway, it was about a reduction of some appendage. So
back to Mars and Venus.
Right. So I was like, yeah, that's the guy I want. If I'm going to have to do this, I want the guy who is totally competing with everyone else.
But he's competing with everybody else in his own mind.
No, he's not. It's on paper.
But it starts and he's giving his stats, right?
The fact that he thinks about it and the fact that he goes after it that way that's the arrogant. He didn't have a problem telling us, and I was fine. I was like, it's more confidence, and it's instilling confidence in me, right? So it's confidence. I said arrogance, but it wasn't a crazy arrogance. It was hey, I'm good at what I do. And what I'm going to present to you are the options. And if you want to take any of them, feel free, because I will get you there. Mm-hmm. I will get you from point A to point B, and you'll be satisfied. You'll be happy, because you don't want people leaving tools in your body. You don't want people,
right. So I want to do examples on both ends, the man and the woman in the relationship. And we do.
Well, let's go back to the just finish out kind of the guy thing and the challenge, because there's a subtlety to it, right? Okay. You can't overtly challenge the guy, because he'll be like, what? Mm-hmm. When you said to me the other day, you said, can you put some light bulbs in the fixtures in the bathroom? It seems like a couple of them bulbs are burnt out. We have 2 fixtures in our bathroom. There's 3 bulbs in each fixture, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of them had 1 burnt out, and one of them had 2 burnt out. And you were like, you didn't say it like, oh, I'm a woman, I can't do it. But you were like, could you do this for me? And I said, yes. That was where I get to step up as a man and help you. I got to get out the 2-step stool. I got to get up there, take the bulbs off, take the housing off, get the bulbs in, put the housing back on, clean out any bugs that are in there, because there always is little moths or whatever, or those Asian beetles, of course, they're always everywhere. So I did that, and then you came in and you were like, wow, it's bright, and it's like, yeah, and then in my mind, I'm like, I did that, I brought the light, and it's an accomplishment, although kind of a silly one, a simple one, an mm-hmm. easy one, but
so how would you suggest that, and I'm just going to, for the sake of women out there, I'm going to ask the difficult questions and get a guy's perspective. Okay. So let's say 2 examples. Let's say the couple did talk about it before they got married or at the beginning of the relationship and said, I expect you to, these are the expectations of the man. I expect you to not go over 180 pounds and not go under 180K a year. Just fun numbers, right?
Wow.
Yeah. I'm just for the sake of.
I would have walked away from you.
Okay.
Yeah. Just so you know.
No, but let's say that fitness, I'm just trying to.
I know. I don't know how you'd have that. I don't know.
To escalate.
I don't know how you'd have that conversation.
So that people can use the example to have something in between. So let me rephrase. Okay. You were just saying that in the bathroom, the lights was a really simple example, but you don't want to directly challenge a guy. And so let's say at the beginning of the relationship, let's say he's already making 80 grand a year. Okay. This is just, and he's naturally 155 pounds, just putting out numbers.
Sure.
And so at the beginning of the relationship, they have agreements going the other way. She has agreements too, but I'm just putting it on one side right now to help the women out there to be able to go, is it reasonable to ask, or request. So, but here's what's difficult for a woman is, now there are all kinds of reasons, right? Which you will bring up. He's now over 180 pounds. He looks sloppy and I'm concerned, but also with that is concern, like, is he going to have a heart attack, and what's going to happen with me and the kids? Or when you start a relationship, okay, he's already making 80 grand a year, so is it reasonable just to instead of saying you got to be up to 150 grand in 5 years, to say, this is our lifestyle, and whatever's above that, awesome, we'll put in the bank. So what if, this goes back to, what if the smaller examples would be cooking and cleaning, right? But where it really becomes difficult and probably escalates to, it starts with cooking and cleaning, and then it becomes, there are bigger issues. So as a woman, I want to ask a guy who talks with a lot of guys, who's, had relationship talks with guys about their relationships.
Yeah.
How does a woman even address that?
90% of relationship problems, of course, I talk mostly to guys. 90% is on the side of the woman, where the guy is like, yeah, dude, she's putting on a lot of weight. She's, I don't, if you can't figure out how to get your wife out with, telling somebody to go to the gym is not a solution, right?
But does it sound like it was like for us, fitness was something that we just both enjoyed from the beginning? So it's kind of an unspoken thing that we would have we ourselves have a certain level of fitness that we want to maintain. Does it sound like this was like an unspoken? Initially,
as your instructor, you were asking me how do I get more trim?
Right.
I want to be more trim, and you were not out of shape per se. You looked like an average gal. You
didn't look fit, but I didn't look.
You didn't look like you do now. You looked average. I say you look above average now, but I said, find your hips. And I said, everything can line up. And you kind of, because women are afraid of the saddlebag look kind of thing. Right. And I was like, everything can line up with your hips, but you have to be doing the right exercises. Yeah, you can get muscle that comes outside of your hips, which is healthy and that kind of thing. But you were like, oh, and then I put you on a regimen, and I forget what it was. What'd you lose? Three pant sizes in 2 months, or
2 in 2 months. I
two
should say.
pant sizes in 2 months, you know, and with relatively little effort. You were coming into this to the martial arts school in the evenings. It's not like you were working out all day. You'd maybe work out for 1.5 to 2 hours every.
Actually, when I really did it, it was a half an hour workout, I think 4 or 5 days a week, and stretching in the evening.
Yeah. So,
and changes to my diet, of course.
So I had you on a lifting
high rep, low weight
regimen.
And a specific.
And you were doing martial arts. So you were kicking pads and you were doing.
Actually, not at that time.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. All right. Well, voila.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't hard. It just took consistent effort, right? And you just said it was, you just said it was diet and
for your
diet and exercise, right?
Yep.
So, and very simple diet. It was eating better foods and the flavor was better. And it was getting in a half-hour workout each night, 4 or 5 days a week, whatever you said. I could put you on it again.
We're in the same room.
I'd have to think about it, but I could put you on it again if you want. Yeah, I don't know how to have, I wouldn't know how to have this conversation going into a relationship. You know, going into a relationship is a process of learning about the other person. It's not a process of qualification per se, right? Like I said, you qualified unconsciously. I wasn't like consciously going, oh, here's my list and here's what I got to get from this chick, you know? And I was 30 years old, you know, these guys that are talking and these gals talking online now, they're about that, you know, they're in that 25 to 35 age range, and they are talking themselves into oblivion.
What it seems though, like I said, it is smart what they're doing in the sense of trying to address all the issues they've seen that come up with their parents.
It's not smart. It's not smart.
I said in a way.
It's not smart.
But what is happening is they're talking themselves in circles and right out of relationships, or into a relationship that is so laden with contractual like stuff that it's like, you need to make this amount of money, you need to stay within this weight range, you need to, you know, we need to have 2.3 kids.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. If you fall in love, you go with it. If you fall in love and the person is, let's say, 50% qualified, if they fall in love with you, they're going to fill in the rest, right? So when you fall in love, I mean, what things do you do for me because you love me?
Pick up your socks.
No, not this is a not even a rhetorical question, but it's an exemplary question. What things do you do for me because you love me that are effortless? And if you didn't love me, you'd be like, I'm not doing that. You know, that is all day long, right? It's all day long. It's all week long. It's all month long. It's all year long. It's 22 years worth of marriage long, right? Mm-hmm. Because we love each other. So when you fall in love, you do 100%. And if the other person does 100%, you get exponential, you get 200%. Right?
Yes. I just had something funny come to mind.
Okay, stop.
The effortless thing. Okay, I'll tell you later. It's really funny though. It's an effortless thing.
Write it down. So if you only do 50%, if the other person is down to 20%, you only get 70% of a person. So I don't, okay, say it. I can't talk while you're laughing.
That's funny.
My math is awesome.
It's funny, obviously.
1 and 1 makes 11.
See?
1 side by side with another 1 makes 11, right? It's not 2. So we know that because we're in business together.
Yeah.
We know that because we're running multiple businesses together. That is difficult. It's so difficult that early in our marriage, you started going online looking for someone to counsel business people. that are married, right? Because you were like, how do I deal with this? How do I, in the beginning, you weren't business minded. You thought I was crazy. You thought I was risky. You thought, and I was risking, I would risk $1 million. I would risk $500,000. I was spending $50,000 a day sometimes. I was doing what I needed to do to get business to the point where I needed it to be. And yes, it goes up and down. It's never straight to the top. If it is, you're headed for a massive crash that you'll never recover from, because you won't have any knowledge or experience about what to do if there's a shakeup, And so with this relationship stuff, the colleges, I'll blame it on helicopter parents and colleges, because these kids have been so protected. They don't have common sense about life. These 30-year-olds, because they're kids to me. I'm 53. These are kids. They don't have any common sense. They're like, well, if a woman did that, I would do this. And it's like, well, when did that happen? Well, it hasn't. You don't know anything until it happens and you do it and you find out that was the wrong thing to do. It just backfired massively. And every person that you're with is different. So there is no contract. If you fall in love and you start working together and you get married and somebody falls out of love, you divorce them. And if you have kids with them, now you've got all these contingent issues, right? You're like, it's like a business. You start a business, you hire people, the economy goes like this, you got to lay people off. You might have to look at somebody you've looked at every day saying, you're an awesome employee. And now you're going, I got to let you go because I can't afford to keep you. The business will go out of business if I keep paying everybody what I'm paying. And then,
So I'm glad you brought up the aspect of marriage as like business. The dynamic that I'm bringing up is, what about, you have that partner in business and they're not cutting it, there might be a situation where it's in the contract and you can say, hey, I thought we agreed to this.
I've had that too. I went out of town for a 30-day immersion course in neurolinguistic programming, and my business partner shut my business down.
So it's handy when you've discussed these things ahead of time, and that's where contracts come in, or prenuptial agreements, we're agreeing to this.
No matter.
Hang on, please. But what's challenging is when you can't address everything that's going to come up in life. And that's why the topic of this is expectations. What about whether the expectations you discussed, and more challenging when you haven't discussed them, are not being fulfilled?
Let me dispel a myth about contracts. They're bullshit. If you're not working with somebody you trust or is trustworthy or has ethics and morals and is a good person, a contract doesn't matter. A prenuptial agreement does not matter, because that person can still take you to court. You can have a prenuptial agreement that says they don't get anything. If we split with everything. And if they go to court and they have a sympathetic judge, you can lose everything. You have a contract in business and it says this, and this, and you got a company over here and they throw their attorneys at you, still got to take them to court. Well, the contract says this, you guys better pay up, take us to court. Well, now I have to have money to get that contract fulfilled to go to court. And the judge is going to go through it and their attorneys are going to find a loophole that was programmed in that I didn't read, that I didn't understand, that I didn't make sure my attorney understood or whatever. I mean, I've had attorneys I've paid more than $500 an hour to that have missed things in contracts that are so important. I could have lost my business if I had signed that contract, and it wouldn't, well, we have a contract. Yeah. Well, I signed this and it was wrong. Or we have a contract and I have to enforce it, which means I have to have the money to go to court. Well, it says in the contract that they have to pay all the attorney fees. Well, that's if I have the money to take them to court in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. Because it costs money up front to go to court. It's not like you go to court and then pay afterwards. The attorneys don't work that way because they know they won't get paid, and so let's just dispel the myths of you think you're safe if you sign a contract, right? Prenup, whatever. I don't care what it is.
But that's in place. What I'm trying to say is,
I mean, you sign a license, a marriage agreement, a marriage license, for better or for worse, and people cheat. You know, if you're with a cheater, you're with a cheater. If you're with someone who is a gold digger, you're with a gold digger. And if you, what are you laughing at? And if you get the gold, you might have it dug from you. You know?
I think this is why those conversations go on. And I want to refer to these 20, 30 something year olds that are not married talking about these topics. I think that in a way they're trying to do something.
No, they are failure to launch people. They're baby Hueys sitting online. Maybe they don't live in their parents' house, but they're living in podcast land. You guys are living in podcast land, pretending you know what's going on, and you don't. You're not living your life. You're talking about it, making money, and that money is ruining your life. Okay. Number one thing in business, don't let the money ruin your life. You remember that guy I told you about the other day that said, are you going to survive your success? He goes in to talk to powerful high-end CEOs, people making tens of millions of dollars a year being a CEO. And the companies all bring him in. And because what these companies are trying to do is they're trying to make sure their CEOs don't have strokes and heart attacks, and they're not so stressed out that they can't run the company, right? Or they run it into the ground, because the company, the board of directors, they have investors, and the investors can have they can have billions of dollars into this thing. And that one person is making decisions, and they've got to make perfect decisions, right? So these companies bring this guy in, and the first question, he comes in and everybody's, hey, everybody, well, this is a really high powered room. And wow, everybody in here makes a lot of money. And I want to ask you a question. Are you going to survive your success? As a business owner, that should make you fall out of your chair.
Yeah.
Because you've never thought about it until you have a heart attack.
Something happens.
Until you have a stroke, until you have an episode, a health crisis that takes you out of commission, and I'm telling you, these young people need to get out there. They need to get off the chair. Like we're sitting on chairs doing this podcast. They need to get out and live their life. You're 40 now, right? I'm 53. We've got 22 years of marriage under our belt. We've got 2 successful businesses. We've got multiple other businesses that we're talking about starting. We're doing a podcast together. We run all the time. We spend tons of time together. We've worked it out in our life so that you get to run your business from home. My business is literally attached to our home. I got 8,500 square feet of a company downstairs. And we literally live above my business. Nice big 2,500 foot condo I built on the top of our business so we could live here. And it works out fabulously for us, tax wise, business wise, meals. We could have every meal together every day if we choose to. This is how you organize your life. This is how you live. Getting married is a chance. It's taking a chance. There's no guarantees. If you're not taking it, you're not taking it. And every year that you don't take that chance is another year that you lose, that you don't get back.
You don't get the experience. You
don't get the time. You don't get the time with that person that you are going to fall in love with.
Okay, and take a drink of water. So let's get back to the expectations, and let's make it apples to apples. Let's just make it a weight and health issue. And so when that guy comes to you and says, you know what, she just let herself go, what do you tell him?
What should you tell him, or what do I tell him?
Well, let's start with, what do you tell him?
First thing I say is, do you love her? And then generally they say yes. And then I say, does she love you? That's where it gets hairy, right? That's where a lot of guys are like, no, and now
it's his perception.
And now they have kids. Well, actions speak louder than words, right? There can be a reason why somebody puts on weight, stops taking care of themselves, stops being engaged in the relationship, that kind of stuff. But if you're not engaged in the relationship, you're not in a relationship. You know, if you're not driving the car, you're not driving a car, right? I mean, it's pretty simple. You're sitting in a chair right now. So you're sitting in a chair, right?
Do you think it's the same for guys who let themselves go?
You know,
or why do you think guys let themselves go?
Okay. I've put on weight. I don't look like it now because I recently lost quite a bit of weight. I was 250 pounds. When I got out of high school, I was in the 200-ish range. So over the course of the last, how long has it been since I've been in high school? 98.
98. You mean
88. Sorry, 88. I was going to say, well, let's say 2000. So 30 years, 22 years. No, it's been what, 32 years roughly. So in 32 years, I put on a pound plus a year, right? And
if you're to do John math, yes.
Well, 50 pounds. So yeah. So I put on a pound plus a year, and you don't see that. You don't feel. A lot of it was muscle. A lot of it was, I wasn't fat. I was a little bulky around my midsection. Now I didn't have a belly, but I had a little bit of
you had girth.
I couldn't wear certain shirts that I bought 10 years ago, let's say 12 years ago. And that's kind of the gauge, right? You know, everybody has that favorite shirt they had in high school and they're like, holy cow, you know, well, if I can't even get my arms in a shirt I wore in high school now, you know, so, you know, it's like, yeah, you grow, right? Or anyway. So, guys, most of the time put on weight because of stress, because of working. Most of the time, guys are working more hours than women. Guys are, you know, and then when they get home, they got to take care of the stuff around the house in the evening that they took care of. Yes, the wife cooks, and, you know, if they do, and that kind of stuff. And I'm not trying to compare men and women. So, guys are generally like, they'll grab something to eat fast and keep working. You know, they'll, instead of sitting down and making sure they've got, you know, a chicken breast, a lemon honey chicken breast with a salad, and, you know, and a 32-ounce water and that kind of stuff. Guys will, you know, they'll grab a Pepsi, Coke, Mountain Dew because it's got caffeine and it gets them going again, and they get back to work. And women tend to take care of themselves better in the food department. And a lot of it is stress. A lot of it is cortisol buildup and not metabolizing properly, and metabolism goes down as you get older. And so I don't know. I can only speak for guys that I've talked to and guys that.
How do you think a woman should address, what would be the most effective way for a woman to address her husband in that department?
Go for a walk, you know, start asking to do stuff together. Don't take him to hot yoga his first time out working out with you. You know, don't put him in freaking yoga pants and take him somewhere where his belly is going to hang out and he's going to fart and sweat and not be able to do 90% of the freaking moves. You know, it's like, their poses, not moves, but, you know, it's like, I'm a martial artist, so everything's a move to me, you know, everything's a technique. So yeah, I mean, start by going for walks in the park, and you have to appreciate him. You have to appreciate him for where he's at and what he is and what he's doing. And yeah, he might only still be making the money he made when you got together 10 years ago. But if he's going to work every day and bringing home a check every week, that he loves you, you know, and that's all you get. I mean, you're not, this society, everybody wants a millionaire. And I've been a millionaire multiple times, and it is freaking hard to be a millionaire. It is hard to generate that amount of momentum and keep it going. And if you do, you're not going to see that guy for 15 years. You know, you're going to get in a relationship, and 10 years from now, your family, you're going to have let's say you have a millionaire lifestyle. You don't see that guy very much. You know, he has chosen to sacrifice his life for the money. And the kids don't really, they see him on the weekend, maybe they don't really get to see him that much. And, it's, statistically, right, across the board, there are probably some guys that make a ton of money and they're always around. It depends on what your business is, right?
I think it's interesting that you say to the guy, does she love you? Because the implication there is that if she doesn't love him, she automatically, it's implying that she doesn't care enough about herself, first of all, to take care of herself health-wise.
And women don't want to get with men they don't love, or men that when women are dating, they will get with a guy that they see has potential. You said that too. They will do things with a guy to show that they have value. Nowadays, they will show their physical value by dressing a certain way, and they'll show their sexual value by doing certain things with a guy, and all the way to sex, or oral sex and that kind of stuff. They'll do things nowadays that when I was younger they didn't do. You had to qualify, you had to date, you had to get, we had what we called bases, right? You get the first base, and then maybe in a few weeks you got the second base, and maybe in a month you got the third base, and maybe 3 months later maybe you got to home. Maybe, but you usually had to have like a promise ring, or you had to be dating for a while, and girls weren't just putting out. It wasn't there was no sexual compatibility test back then. It wasn't like, well, if we're not good in bed together, there's no way. I think you're going to be better in life if you're not good in bed together in the beginning, because you got something to work on. Because
there's that.
If you come together,
I tried this once before and it's really amazing. Let's do it together. It's like, who did you try this with?
Yeah. My last 4 exes said I was awesome at this, let's do this. Yeah. It's like, man, it's so messed up. It's so backwards. If you have sex right away, where's the mystery? Where's the fun? Where's the exploratory process? Where's the,
so getting back to expectations, trying to keep it,
yeah, you're keeping us on track. I'm bouncing around.
So you said you've heard this multiple times from guys and women, that the woman will stop taking care of herself because she's given up. Like, he doesn't apparently doesn't show interest, doesn't seem to care. I've heard from one woman and she's like, he doesn't seem to notice, so I why should I go to the gym? And I'm like, well, maybe because you care about your own health and well-being. And I have heard a couple times of women be like, well, I got the guy, and like, or before the wedding, she's working out like crazy, wants to fit in the dress. And it's like, well, you have a whole life after that. And, for me, being fit and well is because I want to feel good. The bonus is you being like, you look amazing, or going out shopping and you're like, that color, that color looks great on your butt. And
we were in a store the other day, and Tara was trying on multiple shirts, and every time she came out, I said, that color goes great with your butt. And there was some people walking behind us. I know a couple ladies heard me say that, and hopefully they thought it was cute and fun, and we're having fun, and
I need to come up with a name of these for these 20, 30-year-olds, somethings that are doing these podcasts and ideas. Cause I feel for them in a lot of ways. Because I think that I'm on the edge of being a millennial and a Gen X. So I feel like I can see both ways.
Some of it is they don't want to work a regular job. They want to do a podcast for a living, and it's hype. It's hype.
There is hype.
It's hype. It's clickbait bullshit, and it's hype.
And this is probably entirely another podcast.
That's why they bring 5 or 6 or 7 people in the room, because they got nothing to discuss. If they sit down by themselves, look at us. We could do this every day for the next year.
This is why we started the podcast.
Because We've got 22 years of marriage under our belt.
Before fist bumping was even a thing.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we were missing high fives back then. So we could do this every day because we have experience, we have a background, we have, none of those people could go for 10 minutes if they didn't have a panel of people all yelling at each other.
Okay, so here's where I really feel for the women in particular, because I was a part of these generations where you're told that you can be strong, independent, you can make the income to support yourself, have a separate banking account, don't trust a guy, do your own thing, but have fun. It's okay to have a relationship, and you get these mixed messages, but it's literally in your programming. And so you're like, I love this person, I want to be, I want to have the happy home, but then you're like, I got to bust it out there, and then you're taught to have that competitive nature, like, how much did you make this year, or that kind of thing. And it does not support the relationship. And so I can see it on these women's faces where they're like, well, yeah, I'll still work 60 hours a week and have kids, and yeah, I'll have a nanny. And someone's like, well, when will you see your kids? Before bed. Well, kids go to bed really early. Okay, in the morning, while everybody's getting ready and it's all busy.
Yeah, they don't even know how kids operate during the day or what time they go to bed. Like you said, they're all just pontificating on a bunch of stuff they know nothing about. And I might add, sounding quite ridiculous. Well, these stats we got off of dating apps, the people that stay together are the people that spend time getting to know each other. The stats on the dating apps don't tell you anything other than what's going on the app. What goes on after the app, because the people that start dating get off the app. That's when real life starts. And so the dating app stats don't mean anything. They might say they do because, well, X number percentage of guys are sleeping with X number percentage of women. You don't even know that, because there is nobody's tracking that. Nobody's chasing down people and putting cameras on their bodies and videoing who they're sleeping with. You don't know.
So I think what's interesting, I don't know if we're going to get a solid conclusion out of this, which is
about what?
Expectations, about how to resolve the expectation part. But I think you brought up
about it.
It'll be a few podcasts, I think. But I think what you brought up is extremely important. It comes back to love. If you love the other person, and first love yourself properly. And that's what I was getting at about these. Help me come up with a term for this group of people.
Ridiculous. To use a Harry Potter term.
Well, for example, these women think that they're taking care of themselves by making the income and being self-supporting and wanting to get all that what they want. And I'm not bashing them.
Well, the number of women that are leaving men.
But what's getting mixed around, if that same woman, for example, were, I'm conflating. Yes, I'm conflating. If it's the same woman who says, well, he doesn't care. He doesn't notice how I look anyways. So, or doesn't comment positively when I try something new. That was more the point, is like, she's like, well, he doesn't notice when I make improvements anyway. So why should I try to make improvements?
Well, that's a dumb person.
Is that you do, it's kind of gotten twisted of what is self-care, what is looking out for yourself. And as a woman, you are in a very, if you want to be the traditional woman, you are in a very precarious, you have to be very trusting of the person that you choose to be with and marry. And I do more and more as the years go by, I see the reason for these traditional roles of why the father and the uncle or the brother, well, the brother growing up is like, I can pick on my sister, but you can't, or looking out for your sister.
I could pick on my younger brother, and if anybody else did, I kicked the crap out of them.
Right. But getting back to women, that I appreciate when a guy opens a door for me. I mean, those things are heavy a lot of the times. I mean, they're taking advantage of me, those dang doors. But it's a representation of it's okay to be able to, I mean, you've made sure since the beginning of a relationship that I could look after myself physically in an environment, but there are still many environments, and like with martial arts and stuff, I choose not to go into.
It's still dangerous because you're a smaller woman, and you have to use weapons.
You still have to look after yourself, but that's a prime example of a woman who can support herself. Maybe she has the education to support herself, but just you make the choice. Then do you need that? Do you trust the environment?
It's an old adage in martial arts. You'll hear people say it. You'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
So here's the catch. I do think and we're going off onto another topic. So maybe it's time to wrap it up because this is merging into another topic. Sure. But maybe the next topic is like with our, if we had a little girl, I would definitely be about making sure that she has education and can support herself, but being also how about the programming of you have to be able to be your supporter, at the same time, how do you how do you teach trusting? We totally got off of.
No, let's go to expectations for a few minutes.
Yeah.
We got plenty of time. In podcast time, we have years.
We do.
So if we talk about real expectations should be driven only on yourself. Expectations are your standards in life, right? And so if you are a person that, like, I'm completely monogamous, like if I'm with you for 22 years, I haven't even gone to a strip club. I don't even think about it. It's like in my programming probably that, I'm with you, so there's no other women whatsoever. Now I don't mind chatting. I don't mind bantering. I don't mind, but it's always in the daytime. It's always, with people that are, I'm not entertaining any kind of interest, I'm just bantering, and so I think your personal standards drive your expectations. And so if you live your life the way that you do, and if you want to allow somebody in, you have to make space for that person. Like when we met, I had an apartment, I owned a house, plus I was living in an apartment in another town because I was doing my martial arts stuff, and I owned a house in another. I was the original own a house and renter guy, because I had a house 40 miles away that I owned that I was renting out, and I lived in an apartment in the city, and I was running a martial arts school. So I had an income off my home. Plus, I did that. How long ago was that? Was before we were married. So that was 24 years ago. I was doing that kind of stuff. That's the business owner mindset.
Before Zillow.
Before rent.com, and so I made space in my life for you. You actually moved into my apartment. And when you came in, you had a lot of proclivities, right? You had ideas about how you wanted to do things. And if there was an issue between us, I would sit down with you and I would say, I love what we're doing and I love you. However, this thing that's going on needs to shift to this type of thing because that's not what I want to see. And if it was even bigger, I would say, I don't want that in my kind of the way I live my life. I don't want that kind of thing. And you'd be like, oh.
And a lot of it is I just didn't know.
You had never thought about it. I was
mimicking what went on in the
house I grew up. Yeah, you're mimicking how you were raised. And so, and I understood that. And I understood that you needed to hear, first of all, I care about you. I care about our relationship. And here's something that might be better. This might be a better way to do it. This is how I do it. It always works. Check this out. And you're like, oh, all right. And so it wasn't like I filled out a list of things that you had to do. I just dealt with everything as I encountered it. For my life, with you in my life, if I encountered something and I wanted it to be different, I'd sit down and talk with you. And that's how you need to do things. You can't sit down. These guys that have this list of things for women, think about a woman sitting down with you going, okay, I agree to that whole list. Now, I need you to make $250,000 a year. I need you to want to have 3 kids. I need those kids within the next 6 years. I need this type of car to drive. I need this. I need a gym membership, and I like to go to Equinox. And yes, I understand that's $1,500 a month, but that's what I want to do. And, and she comes with her list of things, and the guy is those types of guys are going to go, F no, I'm the man. I say what's going on. And guess what, guys? Nuh-uh. You're not going to say what's going on, because you're just going to have a live-in slave. What do you want a live-in slave for? You want to be wanted. You want to be cherished. Right. You want that woman to have gratitude for what you do. You want all these things to happen organically, naturally. You want it to mesh, and it's going to hit a wall every now and then, and you're going to figure out how to mesh it. But you're never going to write it down on a piece of paper and conform to it. It's not going to happen. If two people meet that can do that, that's fine. We're not even hearing about them. They won't never have a problem if they can do that. But for the rest of us, it ain't happening.
Well, it throws you curveballs, and then you have to renegotiate. You have to.
I couldn't agree to making $250,000 a year. If you sat down and said, this is what I need you to 180, I would never agree to that. If you said 50, I wouldn't agree to that. I'd be like, are you crazy? Have you been around? Do you understand the economy? Do you understand companies? Do you understand business? Do you understand? There will be times when I'm only taking home, $25,000 a year if I'm running a business, right? There will be times I'll take home $250,000 a year if I'm running a business. That's the way it works, baby. I would never have agreed to anything.
Well, I think it's going to be, to each his own,
and if that's the case, we would not have had this wonderful 22-year marriage. If we had come in going, here's my list. Well, you're like, here's my list. Well, they're not compatible. That's a ridiculous way to look at things.
Well, you'd spend years negotiating, maybe.
No, you wouldn't. You'd spend 5 minutes looking at it and you go find somebody else.
It depends on your how you
can't negotiate.
Manage yourself.
You can't negotiate that you can only negotiate things in a relationship once you're in a relationship and you know the person.
So I think the key point is love is key. Love is key.
Well, you're going to create.
From the beginning, you can discuss and make agreements because you're in a loving state,
Maybe maybe I need to say it this way. You're going to create somebody you don't want to be with.
Well, yeah, if you keep, making the list and making them fit in those criteria.
And what you need to fall in love with is who the person is, not the mannequin you want to add robotics to. You don't want to. You're never going to be happy falling in love with somebody that you force them to become. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Good. It worked for 5 years, but it doesn't work because that person is they have a personality. They have a soul. They have a spiritual part of themselves that is on this planet to do things, to fulfill a destiny, a mission, a goal. And that mission might be to be your wife and to have your children. That mission might be to be your wife and to be a complement to your life. That mission might be to be an independent woman that has a man that is more feminine that follows the woman. It might be, but you cannot mold a human being that is already existing. You can only talk to them and ask them like I did in the beginning and say, what about this? What about that? I love you. I want to be with you, but I can't do this.
You'll grow and you'll mold together.
Yeah.
Otherwise I think all these criteria make you separate, enforce that you're separate entities.
Well, you opened up the code. You said to me, okay, I'm open source code. You help me write in what is going to work in our life. And you were very open to that. And you were firm on some things and you were flexible on other things, and that's life.
Yeah.
If you're going to live life, you actually have to live life, not talk about it on a podcast until your perfect robot shows up. That I'm trying to save these people 10 more years, because 10 years from now, I was 30 and you're 12 years younger than me. So I married a 19-year-old when I was 30. Hey, They can do that. You're 35, you can marry a 19-year-old. It's legal. And it worked out for me because you were more mature. I was less mature than my age, and we kind of met in the middle. And it worked out great.
Yeah.
So far.
So far, it's worked out well. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like your two reeds, you know, or pieces of grass at the beginning, and hope the more flexible you are, the better you can weave together. And the more criteria and the more rigid you get, it's going to be harder to weave together, and you're going to get more cracks, and it's not going to be, you know, the beautiful hat or basket or whatever that you're trying to make.
Yeah. And it's about having fun. If you're not having fun with your significant other, they won't want to change or grow or do anything with you. You know, and we've always had fun. That's part of this podcast. I mean, how we're almost at 100 podcasts now.
It's awesome.
We wouldn't have made it through even 100 podcasts if we didn't get along.
Yeah. Yeah. And for some reason we can keep going on and on about with conversation.
Well, maybe we can do more on expectation in the future, but I think probably good for now.
It's good for now. I don't think it's entirely solved, but I think that your point about, I'll hashtag it, love is key, is imperative. You know, it sounds like you've talked to a lot of guys who they've answered, no, I don't think she loves me anymore. And for some odd reason, she's not taking care of herself. I think there's also a component of, you know, I don't know how working moms do it. I don't know where they would be fitting in the time to really take care of themselves well. I have to mention that because even, you know, for me, you know, I have to really make a concerted effort, and I enjoy, you know, working out, feeling good and stuff like that. And I would imagine that's the case for a lot of men too. You know, like you said, they're going to work, coming home, there's home stuff, you know, guys are very involved typically with their kids these days. The good guys, you know, good dads. I don't think it's entirely uncommon if you have you know, are listening to this kind of podcast or into this kind of relationship stuff. There's probably a lot of good dads out there, and that takes time and effort as well. So, expectations, you know, I think anytime you can come and into a conversation with the intent of love, you know, that love is the foundation, that the message can more easily come across. And sometimes it is, this is what I want, you know, and it might, you know, I'd like to have a husband or wife that looks this way. And then sometimes it's also tied in with, I'm really concerned.
Yeah.
So let that be for next time.
Sure.
That's a good enough summary.
There you go.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody. Bye.